Welcome back to Happy Body by Bill. I'm Bill. So now we're going to focus on strengthening the core. Hopefully you've been doing the stretches and flexibility routine to alleviate discomfort and to increase mobility. Now it's important to also increase strength. Too much mobility without strength is risky. Too much strength without mobility is equally risky. So for the rest of your life, you're going to be finding a balance between these two. But we're going to get started by first laying flat on our back. If you're on the floor, well, you'll have to get on the floor. I do not recommend doing this on a bed. It's too soft. So we're going to start with our pelvic tilts. Before we did them to warm up and loosen the area, now we're going to do them to strengthen that core. We're going to tip the pelvic in, suck the belly in, try to push your belly button into your spine and push your spine into the table, and then we're going to tip that back out. We're just going to do this 5 times, and we're going to hold each one for 3 seconds when we tip the pelvic in. Tip it in, push every spine down, tighten that sphincter as tight as you can, and then push it out and relax it. Let's do it 3 more times. Tip it in, tighten that sphincter, push the vertebrae down into the bench, and tip it out 2 more times. Try to breathe the air out of your belly now, and then tip it out. And you may feel a little shaking going on, and that's just the muscles contracting. Push down for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let that relax. Fantastic. And then if you need to loosen them, you can just go back into that tip in and tip out so it's nice and relaxed. Now we're going to do your core. Really engage a lot more core muscles by bridging. Your feet are going to be the width of your hips, tummy tight. Suck the belly in and push the spine flat down before you even lift. Tighten the sphincter. So there's a series of intentional actions you're going to do before you even start to lift the weight of the hips and the glutes off the table. So we're going to do a set of 10 of these. My sphincter is tight. I'm lifting and I'm lowering slowly. Lifting, lowering. When I tap the bench, I want to go back up. I don't want to rest and relax it. Then I have to re-engage it. So we want to build endurance and strength all in one. That's my 4th one, 5th one, 6th one, 7, nice controlled lowering, 8, last 2, 9, we got 1 more, 10. Now you can relax. If at any point the hamstring starts to spasm, stretch it out, bring it up to alleviate that. Don't let that be a deterrent to you continuing. That also means that that muscle is deconditioned and it needs to get conditioned. But also don't push through it. Stretch it out, lift it for a count of 10, and then continue. 1 second set, here we go. Tip the pelvic in, tighten my sphincter, and here we go. 1. Now, there are progressions that I will introduce in other routines. 3, 4, and some days you may only do 8, 5, because you may be teetering on that line of aggravation. 6, so you have to be willing to make adjustments on a day-to-day basis. 7, 8, last 2, 9, 1 more, 10, and let that relax. I'm also going to stretch my lower back out a little bit, just to alleviate the tension, because I am creating tension in these muscles. Our goal is not to beat them to submission, it's to slowly build their endurance and strength. We are partnering with our muscles. Last one, same thing. And like I said, there are progressions, adding weight here. My bench allows me to just put a band across. So I tip my pelvic in, here we go, up and 1. 2, try to add the breathing. The whole time my sphincter is contracted at about 100%. I want to really strengthen all those muscles simultaneously. Last 4, 3 more, last 2, 1 more, and then once again I'm just going to stretch something out. So I'm going to scoot to the end of my bench. I'm just going to drop a leg to open up the hip flexor since that was engaged, loosening up the abdomen muscles. Just about 10-15 seconds. I don't want to take too much time in stretching because it feels good and it may demotivate me to continue. Okay, so now I'm going to do a straight leg lift. I'm going to extend one leg out. I still tip my pelvic in to protect my back because I'm lifting a weight, and that weight is heavy. That means this needs more anchoring. So I'm just going to lift, lower, once again tap. And when I lower, I want to imagine that I'm pushing the leg down versus resisting the weight of that leg. If I push it down, it gives me control of the descent. Last one. Perfect. When I transition my legs, I want to still keep my pelvic in and tummy tight because that also can be risky, especially if you have some back discomfort. So we're lifting and lowering 1 and 2. We're going to do 3 sets of these back to back. 3. And you don't need to lift any higher than the knee. 4 and 5. For conditioning reasons, I'm just going to switch into the other one, keeping my core engaged the whole time so that it builds endurance. 1, 2, and once again, to keep my core engaged, I switch my legs. At no point do I relax my sphincter or my core. Remember to breathe in and out. 2 more. 1 more. And I got 1 more set, keeping the core engaged while I transfer my legs. And here I go. If you think long leg, push the length of the leg through the heel. You'll also get a little hamstring stretch in there. 2 more. Push it down. 1 more. Imagine you're pushing like a bubble underwater. Once again, my core stays engaged as I transfer to the other leg. I lift, push down. And what am I using? I'm using my hip flexor and my quad to do the lifting. 3. I use the hamstring to push down. 2 more. And 1 more. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of loosen things up a little bit, move things around, alleviate some of that tension that I'm intentionally creating to build strength. So now I'm going to roll to my side, and we're going to focus on the hip, because remember, the hips are part of that core complex. My tummy is tight. I want to make sure that my ear, my shoulder, my hip, and my ankle are in a straight line. So I don't want my feet over here, or I don't want to be in a fetal position. Make sure that I'm in a straight line. Before I lift anything, I suck in my sphincter tight to support my hips. We're going to clam it. 1. Once again, this is like phase 1. So it's the easier exercise. 4. We're going to do 8 of these. 5. 6. 2 more. 7. 1 more. And 8. And if you're so inclined, you could do a little stretch in between, or you can bring that up and do a little spine stretch, depending on what you're comfortable with. I'm going to do our second set. Once again, I'm opening from the hip, not from the knee. I'm using the muscles around the hip, which are predominantly gluteal muscles, to open up that knee. We're going to do 4 more, which will help build strength around the hip joint, and it'll also help minimize strain from impact. 2 more. 1 more. Okay, once again, I'm going to do a quad stretch first. And I'm going to go into a little bit of a hamstring stretch. I'm just going to bring that forward a little bit. And I'm going to do 1 more. I'm keeping my belly in first. Always keep that sphincter tight. 1. Imagine like you have a little child sitting there and you're lifting them and lowering them. And notice I'm not plopping my leg in. I'm also squeezing that leg in. Like I have a balloon and I'm squeezing air out of it. We'll do 2 more. And 1 more. Perfect. Once again, I'm doing a little stretch. Just alleviate some of that tension, which is nice to kind of get some stretching in between of the movements. I'm going to do a little hamstring stretch, and then we're going to switch to the other side. So same series. Make sure that my ear, my shoulder, my hip, my ankle are in a straight line. My belly is tight. I want to protect my spine, and I want to give the hips as much stability by engaging that sphincter. So I'm opening and closing. 1. If you stick your fingers kind of right behind the hip bone and the glutes, you'll feel them contracting. Let's do 4 more, which means that that's how they're going to build their strength, through contraction. Let's do 2 more. 1 more. Excellent. I'm grabbing that ankle, gently drawing that back. If this is uncomfortable for you to do, you could just let the leg hang like this. And then I'm going to do a little hamstring stretch. I'm just going to take what it gives me. We're going to go into round 2. I'm opening, squeezing, close. 1. Excuse me. Opening, squeezing, close. 2. Opening. I'm never dropping the leg or plopping it. Last 4. Last 3. 2 more. 1 more. Excellent. And once again, for me, I'm just going to do a thigh stretch. And this time I'll do a little bit of a waist stretch where I have one leg forward, hanging, and then I'm going to rotate my spine back just a little bit. And I'm going to go into one more set for these clams. My belly's in to my spine. You don't want to rock the hips back, giving you the illusion of range. We keep the hips stacked like someone's driven a spike right through this hip joint, in through the bench, out of the other hip joint. 1. I see this a lot where people will do this. Well, all they're doing is rocking the torso. 2. Good. 3, which means that you're not getting the glute to contract. 4, if you're rocking back. 5. 6. 7. 1 more. And 8. And once again, let's just do a little stretch. And then I'm going to bring that. Okay, now I'm going to go to my stomach. Okay, so I'm on my stomach now, and we need to also start to work on the gluteal muscles, gluteus maximus muscles, because they're also a main stabilizer for the core. I want to first engage my sphincter. You may not notice it, but I am. I'm using my glute to lift the leg and lowering it back down. What you don't want to do is this, where you're bending the knee and you think that by lifting the foot, we're engaging the leg. That's not engaging the glute. We need to tighten that sphincter. Think about the butt lifting a straight leg. There's not a lot of range there, so don't expect a lot. 2, we're going to do 8 of these. 3, control it down. 4, and think long leg. 5, 6, 7, 1 more. 8, because I want to condition my core, I'm going to keep it engaged while I transfer to the other side. 1, 2, and the goal is not to overlift. 3, so we don't want to strain the back. 4, we want to strengthen the glute. 5, 6, 2 more. Once again, keeping my core tight, I just go to the other side. 1, and just visualize the butt muscle doing the lifting. 2, and think long leg. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1 more. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and then we'll do the other side. My sphincter is still engaged. The whole set, I'm keeping my sphincter engaged at about 75% of that contraction that I'm capable of. Last 4, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And now loosen that. Now you can really relax the sphincter, loosen up the hips. Okay, so our last strength exercise is going to get a whole core engaged, and we're going to bring our elbows underneath, push our